You have seconds. Don't worry. Breathe.
I usually like to pull up our show, but now Brave doesn't let me pull up anything.
All right. As soon as we get word from the good folks in the chat room that someone can hear us, we will begin. And until then, you can continue to try and look for what you're looking for.
Your channel is what I'm looking for.
Very difficult to find. Very difficult to find. It's taking a minute or two longer than usual for someone to say they can hear us.
Where's Jonna?
There's somebody there. That is, we don't have Jonna, but we have Bast's Breath Word. Word. Hi. Bast's Breath. I don't know if that's the right way I'm saying it, but we have touchdown. Oh, now we have Christy Crinkle, Meg, and Beth Berry. So yay, we're on. And here we go. Good evening. It's Wednesday evening.
Good evening. Wednesday evening.
All right. Dani and I have an abundance of nonsense to share with you all this evening. And I just want to clarify before we begin that it is all nonsense. Every day as I prepare for this, I'm like, we spend an awful lot of time putting together things and preparing to share our thoughts about shit that I'm not even certain is real. So it's like an interesting exercise, right? I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Okay. All these tech difficulties. Yeah, it's like this absurdist theater that we're participating in real time.
There's this weird thing on my screen that I've never noticed before. In the corner where like it says recording, there's like these 3 or 4 green lines. Thing like never seen before. Do you know what? Do you see it?
No, because I'm trying to pull you up. Okay, now I'm back to getting to see you. Okay, what are we looking at?
In the upper left corner next to where it says recording, there's like these 3 or 4 green lines that look like the Wi-Fi.
Oh, I think that means we're on YouTube. That's the
okay,
like.
Got it. Okay. I've not noticed it before. So, okay. Just making sure we don't have some strange thing going on. So yes, it is weird to spend so much time like trying to organize my thoughts about something I'm not even sure is really happening, but this is what we do. So carry on. Anywho.
Well, it seems like in your timeline, it's summer. In my timeline, it's still winter.
In my timeline, it has become spring yesterday.
Okay, cool.
Yes, it was really cold over the weekend. Like we had a few hints like a week or two ago of like 70, upper 60s and lower 70s. But yesterday it got like mid 70s and today it's, about 79. It's going to be in the 80s the next couple of days. I, for one, am fucking relieved because I feel so stupid saying this because I used to make fun of like my grandmother and my aunts and uncles that would be like, oh, just can't handle the winter anymore. And there's like hardly any winter in Texas or California or most of the places I've lived. But like, I really have no use for weather under 70 at this point, day or night.
I feel like it's because you're a summer baby. I'm a winter baby, so I love winter. I never want it to end. I get super bummed when the sun comes out. I'm like, no, it doesn't work for me.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I want it to be warm all the time. Like I want it to be spring and summer every day. I like when it stays light until after 9 o'clock at night. I like getting home from work and being able to like go out for my run at like 6:30 to 8:30 or 7 to 9 and all that. Like I enjoy that. Yeah, I'm a summer person for sure. I like spring better because in spring, there's still a long time before spring and summer are over. And once you're into summer, it's like, oh, fall's getting close. I don't know, So
I'm the same with fall. I'm like, finally, my kind of weather. And then like we're having a sunny day, but it's still in the 50s. And people are like, welcome to spring. And I'm like, oh no, we don't have to deal with that shit for a while. It'll snow again.
I did not know this about you. I, for some reason, thought that you enjoyed warm weather. So
I cannot stand warm weather, which is why LA was like perpetual hell for me. It's like, we get it. It's sunny. It's beautiful. Fuck off, sun. Tone it down.
you're always exactly who you are, Dani. Screaming at the sun, right? Like you might get it to change.
Although I do applaud the sun when it goes down. That's a pretty regular. I'm like, good job, sun.
Curtains, you applaud the curtain call. Oy.
Totally.
All right. So, where should we begin with this week's nonsense?
Exactly.
Well, So a couple of things happened. Like we mostly with this show try to stick to the geopolitical and election related nonsense. And then we dive into the deeper layers of the op on our real show, which is wordspodcast.locals.com. If you haven't been there yet, hours and hours and hours of us navel gazing and plucking every piece of lint we can about each member of the intellectual dark web, Santa Fe Institute, Lifeboat Foundation, any other place that these ideas emanate from, these highly funded ideas, right? Like we can do it without the funding. You know? And we get there first. So, right.
Although I am still lobbying for them to put us on the payroll as consultants, given that their every next show is always a response.
Right.
What we put out before.
It's getting pretty funny, dude. Like, but it is working on some level. Over the arc of time, it's bending to what we say. And like now, somehow I have spoken the fission fusion debate into existence on a major public platform. I couldn't believe it. I haven't had time to dig in lately or not, but like Jordan Peterson is talking about cold fusion. I was like, okay.
Cute. Right? It's like countdown until RFK jumps on that bandwagon and says, oh, I learned, like, look how I can evolve and shift into a pro-nuclear stance.
Well, remember I had said that was one of the things I thought would be his arc of transition. Correct. Throughout this would be that I didn't know, like, I didn't see this piece with Jordan Peterson giving voice to someone who's a cold fusion researcher. Now, I haven't listened to it, so it could be like, oh, that would all be lovely and dandy, but we don't have it, so we have to go with fission kind of bullshit. I can't speak intelligently about it yet, but I have to say that I was kind of shocked, right? And like, even though like all the things that the people do and say and the way they act are so sort of arrogant and annoying and whatnot, we have dragged them closer to our positions on things, right? On some level, even if it's just like, yeah, energetically or whatever it is. So it's kind of interesting to watch. But if you guys want to see some serious predicting of the future, start at episode number 1 of Words from 2017 and work your way forward. Right.
I feel like we should redefine ourselves as prophets at this point.
Yeah. What is that t-shirt that says like if Ron Paul, like something about like there's if I told you so was a person, it would be Ron Paul or something like that, right? Like I think Luke what's his name from We Are Change has a shirt that's a picture of Ron Paul that says, if I told you so, or a t-shirt or a person or something like that, right? Yeah. Anywho, okay, so let's start with, just because like I like to torture myself. Dean Phillips, who is the like only sort of officially acknowledged on any level other Democrat that is running sort of in the primary. You know, like they ignored Marianne Williamson and Cenk Uygur and RFK and whatever, but they play, you know, they give a little bit of lip service to Dean Phillips. And of course, he's the other person besides RFK that Bill Ackman has put money behind, right? And like, it's kind of an interesting, like, there's no way Dean Phillips is going to win. So one has to wonder what the point of that is, but if 5D chess, I have some ideas. But he was on the Bad Faith podcast with Brianna Joy Gray this week. And, I listened, and most of it was stuff I've already heard him say. And her responses are often very good because she's a lawyer. And so when a lot of people get into scenarios with these Congress critters who are also often lawyers, right? And they go down a line of attack that doesn't necessarily always work. She's usually fairly effective because she does have some of that legal training. But we ended up in like a really weird place where he was basically, and I heard him sort of trial run this a little bit when he was on with Crystal and Sauger, but they're not as effective of questioners and they're not as aggressive as she is, where basically he was making the case that his position on the Israel-Palestine conflict is rather than being like confronting why people have a problem with it. He's asking for some sympathy and some empathy and some compassion for the fact that he's a Jewish man, and that he's really surprised that progressives like her, like, they can have compassion for so many people, but they can't have compassion for him. It was one of the weirdest things I'd ever seen. I know you have, so I have a clip of our friends at Do Dissidents clipping this segment. I don't know if we want to watch some of it or not. I think you have something to say.
Yeah, the whole thing was an Impression Olympics competition that I saw.
Oppression Olympics.
What did I say?
Impression Olympics.
Oh, I like that.
It's kind of cool too, yeah.
Yeah, no, Impression Olympics for sure, in that he was so first off, within the first 10 seconds, we learned that it was an hour-long interview. I think it was a little less than an hour.
Hour and 20 minutes. I think it was a little more than an hour, yeah.
So in that time, we learned his daughter has non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Right. His dad died in the Vietnam War before he was when he's 6 months old. And then his sadness about the Jew thing. So my thing is, like, put your dick in your pants. Like, this is way too much personal sadness. It really made me actually like Trump a bajillion times more, because sure, Trump is a narcissist, but he's not attempting to gather sympathy for all the terrible, tragic, bobagic things that have happened to him. And it is something coming out of the left that is so distasteful to me. Like, I don't care about your personal tragedy. What are you going to do for this country? That's all I want you talking about. What is your vision? How are we going to get there? I don't need you to make me feel sorry for you. If for me, it's a sign of weakness and disempowerment. It's a total psyop. It's disgusting. And then when he went on his Israel thing and tried to rebrand it as being pro-Palestine.
This is the new thing, yes.
This is the new thing.
Right.
The fact that instead of talking about what was actually happening in Israel, then Breonna Joy Gray chose to make it about herself as a Black woman. And how dare he talk about what's happening to Jews to a Black person? It was pathetic and embarrassing. It was so unprofessional. I thought it was like bringing the level of discourse to an even lower and more ghetto, disgusting place. And the fact that both of them were fighting to make it about themselves and their personal trauma, and neither of them could get it together to talk about the actual issue at hand. And then the fact that she had the nerve to talk about the United States is an apartheid state. Now, I'm not going to say we don't have institutional racism in our prison system and that is nonsense, but for her to pull that as a Harvard grad with her own show it just like makes that movement all the more laughable. I thought it was ridiculous. And then the ridiculous crap he was saying about the insurrection. So anyone who uses the word insurrection to describe January 6th in a not ironic way,
right,
is not living on the same planet that I'm living in, and I can't take them seriously. Like, he said a couple things that I thought actually made sense, but when he went there, it was ridiculous. And I really think all of this is a ploy to get Trump in office, because the fact that he was saying, I'm not running against Joe Biden, I'm running against Trump, it's like, all you're doing is showing everyone how strong Trump is. Like, all you're doing is throwing votes to Trump by talking about him in an interview where he actually didn't come up organically and had nothing to do with any of the topics at hand.
So I think you have all interesting and very good points. And your Freudian slips today are interesting. The impression instead of oppression. And you just said that they're not living on the same planet that you're living in. So you're living inside the planet, they're living on the planet. But I think we're getting closer to the truth with these slips that you're having. So, okay, so I like your points, and some of them are different. Now, I probably spend more time listening to Breonna Joy Gray than you do, because I'm parsing and dissecting a different set of things. Mm-hmm. So because I have a bigger arc to look at, I think that she was on a time limit with him, and she did not go into deep explanation about some things that I've heard her explain before. So I think the thing she was doing about where's my state, I think that was performative, because she's had that conversation before and been like, I think this is ridiculous, but if this is your point, then what I could say is something like this, but she just didn't do that. And I'm not saying that I agree with that, but I think she was trying to trying to explain to him how stupid what he was saying sounded by saying something equally as stupid. And also some of the remarks you have about her are what some people sometimes, including our friends at Do Dissidents and Revolutionary Blackout and Sabby Sabs, what their sort of criticisms of her are, and that is, while she's a more appreciated member, she is still a member of what they call PMC, the professional managerial class, right? That is there to sort of manage the progressive opinion sort of about things, and that she gets it right more often than most of the other PMCs. And often when she gets it right, she really lands it home really well, but she sort of dilutes the quality of the things she gets right, or sort of makes them irrelevant by how stupid her position is on some other things, right? And so you just kind of did the same thing with all of the hours of torturous listening that the rest of us have done with Brianna Joy Gray. A couple of things about Dean Phillips. Like, it is so embarrassing to listen to him make his case for why he's a candidate that I have to think that this is part of a giant op to, like, they're ready to just be rid of the Democratic Party. They're trouncing Joe Biden. This is like, I think that like Bill Ackman is putting money behind this as part of putting the Democratic Party to bed. Yes. Like, putting money behind him is actually like, I think a gaming move towards the money he already put behind RFK Jr. Yep. So I don't know how, how like we didn't know how 2016 was going to play out until the middle of the night. We all went to sleep. It was one way. We woke up in the morning. It was another way. And it was kind of surprising, but it was clear that system sort of made a decision, right? Yep. Like a long play. Like, I think that's what we're dealing with here. And we're not going to know until very late in the game whether system decides to go with Donald Trump or RFK. Either way, it will be because they are the establishment candidate. There will be no overturning the system or getting one in for the little guys, though there will be all of this performative stuff to make you think that, right? And it felt like I'm sorry, but like someone who's made billions of dollars making smart investments, right? Like, in a normal world, or on a normal world for you, or whatever it is, right? Money, $1 million behind Dean Phillips is not a smart investment unless you're playing a different game, unless it's this kind of thing like, I'm going to put money into totally demolishing the Democratic Party because he has my money, so now he can get out there and talk and make a complete fool of himself. We're done with the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party, we're going to make it obvious to everyone that they're no longer, they don't believe in democracy, even though they're claiming about the democracy all the time. They just mean their democracy. Democracy means having a Democrat in office. It doesn't mean the practice of democracy that I don't believe in anyway, but they do, or whatever it is. So you have the Democrats not holding primaries, right? And doing all of these undemocratic things, and then putting literally the worst candidates you can possibly imagine forward, and doing such obvious clown show tactics, like, whatever they were doing with, if you participate in the New Hampshire or the Iowa thing, then your delegates go to the people who didn't participate, right? And then now this thing, which we're going to talk about in just a minute, where JFK, who's supposedly polling at 21% or something like that. RFK. Yes, we're both having it.
We're both doing it.
RFK still can't get Secret Service. Why he would want it, I don't know, but we're pretending we're playing the game here, right?
Correct.
That Nikki Haley, who's polling at less than 1% in her own primary, not overall, somehow has been approved for Secret Service protection. So we can move on to that story in a minute, unless you have anything else to say about this one.
I do. So another thing that I notice, and I'm starting to clue in more and more to the languaging patterns that are showing me like, oh, these people are all working together, because he was using a lot of like Brett-isms, Eric-isms, in terms of like good thinking, bad thinking, like that thing. But what I noticed was his kind of Lex Fridman thing about like the heart, and that hurts my heart, and we have to love. And it's like, are you a politician or are you like a spiritual guru? And it's
are you writing for Lifetime?
right, or Hallmark. But it's like the bounds of how the communication has gone so off the rails, and no one is speaking in political terms. Watching that was like, I definitely prefer Trump over this.
Well, this wasn't even entertaining. It's sad. Well, listening to him, first of all, did you have those moments where he slipped into reptilian and back? Like his eyes look black. He has like those beady eyes, like the black-eyed children, right? And he had moments where like he was doing that sort of slipping into reptile.
Totally.
Right? So yeah. The only fascination was that. And then it was just like, it was so pathetic. It felt like, I felt like I was at a compassion, like what do they call it? Like a support group, like an emotional support group. And that like he was going to pass out teddy bears or something like that. Right. And that he was so disappointed in Brianna because she wanted to do it at the nightclub and not with the teddy bears or whatever it was. Right?
Yeah, and it was interesting watching his face because you could tell he was getting super triggered and his face would show that, and then he would catch himself and like pull it back and then go into sad puppy of like as though he was in couples counseling with his wife. And like that really hurts me when you say that, Brianna. It's like, how is that going to work when you're dealing with world leaders in other countries? You're going to say, oh, you hurt my feelings, instead of dealing with the issue at hand. The whole thing was yuck.
Yeah. Okay. On to the next issue. So, RFK, and this one I will play a clip for because it's easier to just get to the point with this one. Okay. So to what I talked about just a second ago, going to shrink it down before we go. And here we go. Okay.
There you.
Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is slamming what he says is a heinous double standard after a congressional advisory panel voted yes to awarding GOP candidate Nikki Haley with Secret Service protection, but not RFK Jr. Kennedy wrote on X of this move, while I'm happy she'll be protected and publicly supported her request, double standards abound. My campaign first requested Secret Service protection in May of 2023 with a 63-page declaration. We still have a current request pending. Kennedy continued, my request is the first time in 55 years a candidate has ever been denied. The Biden administration is the sole outlier to turn down a request for Secret Service coverage. So this is very interesting. So Nikki Haley receiving protection as she, continues to technically be a Republican primary candidate on that side, although Donald Trump overwhelmingly likely to get the nomination. And RFK Jr. has been complaining for some time that he has not gotten security protection, Secret Service protection from the administration. The process for getting Secret Service protection involves a panel of actually congressional leaders getting together and deciding whether to recommend this protection, and then the ultimate decision is made by Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas, who has denied it to RFK Jr. thus far. There was a lot of reporting pointing out that at the time at which RFK Jr. had initially asked for it, it was way in advance of the election, much further in advance than is usual. Although I was just reading from ABC News more about how this is working. Apparently, Barack Obama, when he was a candidate in the 2008 election, did receive Secret Service protection pretty far out in advance. So did candidates in subsequent cycles. Herman Cain, Donald Trump. It has to do with the level of the threat assessment for have people threaten them, that kind of thing. RFK Jr. did have an angry person with a gun interrupt one of his events. He's paying for his private security. But frankly, what's offered by the Secret Service is much more robust. I'm not really understanding the argument for not granting him protection, frankly, and the administration hasn't offered one for what it's worth.
Okay. So again, living in the delusional world where people think this is real.
Right.
Right. Okay. So, this is what we've known for a while, but the part that makes this so silly is an absolute non-candidate, unless really, I can't think of, there's just another feather right before you came on, a feather UFO came at an angle and with a velocity that I have never experienced before. It was like so fast. I was like, that's like where the UFO jumps from like one side of the sky to the other in like one fell swoop. And there was no one here to see it. It was like right before you came on, and certainly before Elena could have gotten here. So anyhow, and since she just comes for the feather orbs, anywho. Anywho, okay. So like the Nikki Haley thing, like this is clown show. Like this is not anymore just like, when are people going to wake up or this is clown show. And they want us to, they're letting us see like all of the strings and everything. Like, there's no hiding anymore. And so you have Dean Phillips out there crying with his teddy bear. You have Nikki Haley, getting security guards for no reason. And, whatever we think of RFK, like, I'm sure there are people out there that dislike him and care enough about how much they dislike him that maybe they would do something. I'll buy that for a minute, right? So they want people to think the Democrats.
Why though? Why would you buy that? Why would anyone want to kill RFK at this stage of the game?
I mean, there's probably people out there that don't actually know anything and truly believe that the Pokeroonies saved their lives and that he's against that. Like, that means he's a horrible cuckoo people, not normal people, right? Okay. Cuckoo people. So like, that's what I'm saying. It wouldn't be for anything that actually makes any sense. It's just for nonsense, right? Right. But they want people to, they're trying to create a scenario on purpose where all people have lost faith in the Democrats or the Democratic Party. So if system somehow delivers the appearance of an election that overturns that unfairness, right? That is a win for the little guy, whether it's that RFK wins despite not being granted Secret Service protection, and despite the fact that, whatever nonsense he thinks his Instagram account was frozen or whatever shit he cares about, I don't know, right? Or if Trump is able to overcome the fact that they've indicted him for every ham sandwich he's ever eaten, then this will have been a win and the people have power over the system, right? But watch what's happening right now. They're intentionally creating a scenario where nobody trusts or believes in Democrats anymore. And I'm not saying that there's not good reason, but it's different when people come to that realization on their own and when they do clown shows because they're ready for you to believe that.
Yep. I love how you're using system in a similar way as Aubrey uses empire. I feel like regarding last week's show, wherein we tackled Brett for conflating pattern recognition with cynicism. Right. This is an obvious clue that they're in the same op and it's the same writers, because this is exactly the same thing as Heather and Brett being demonetized. Right. To give them street cred for being outsiders. It is the exact same thing. It's the same move by the same script writers. It's all the same. It's all the same. Yeah, 100%. I was listening to just the clipped part from that podcast where he's explaining about limited hangouts and conspiracy thinking. And I was looking at the comment section, right? And I almost got like involved and I was just like, no, Emily, just stop yourself. Why? But I was heartened to see that the first comment, the comments at the top was from 6 hours ago, and it said, "The truth goes far deeper than anything Brett has uncovered. He's literally just waking up." And I was getting all excited. I'm like, wow, great. And then the next sentence, "And that is staggering to me for someone of his intelligence." And I was like, not that intelligent, not staggering, because not that intelligent, right? But it is interesting. Some of the comments in here are more like, they're kind of agreeing that like Brett is in the early days of waking up, but they're like, it's almost like sympathy for how hard it is for intelligent people to see the things that dum-dums can see easily, right? Like, oh my God. My favorite in terms of this psyop this week, and I know this is not where we're going today, but his Alex Jones interview when he's like, "I've been following you for a long time." And I did troll him on Twitter, and I'm like, Brett, I think that like your script writers have gone a little bit off the rails in terms of the expectations for us to suspend our disbelief. Like, right. You overplayed that one. No one's buying that.
Well, they both were ridiculous. Like, I've never
Yes.
heard Alex be so deferential to someone. He kept referring to Brett as doctor. Like, I'm not going to talk today because I just want to listen to you spread your brilliance and whatever. I was like, what the fuck?
Right. And he was saying, like, I'm still learning about the world, so I want to hear from you, Brett. It was like, what?
Right.
That show, whereas you and I were giving Brett a lot of leeway in being an innocent pawn, the moment he said, I've been, a fan of yours for a long time, I'm like, okay, now you're actually a shill. Now you've moved from pawn to shill because you're lying and
Right.
you know you're lying.
Well, or he's telling the truth, but he only now is owning up to it publicly because it's now, it's not inconvenient. Where was his support for Alex Jones during the Sandy Hook trial?
I mean, I hear what you're saying as a thought experiment, but
Everybody's been brought into line. Everybody got together for lunch in Austin because that's where Brett has to come to be in Alex's studio. Also, Eric on Chris Williamson's Modern Wisdom acknowledged that he was just in Austin having lunch with people. Aubrey, so the most amount of people from the op live in Austin. Like, we're not going to list them all right now. And so everybody has gotten their synthesized marching orders.
Correct.
Right. And so my guess would be that everybody's familiar and up on everyone's stuff. And now is the moment where people who were not conspiracy theorists before, but are now, can acknowledge that secretly they've always been conspiracy theorists because it's no longer politically inconvenient. It's kind of like I was listening to Glenn Greenwald earlier today talk about how Bernie Sanders came out against Israel and for a ceasefire when it wasn't when it was not, he should have, if he did that in October of November, it would have been helpful. But now when he has to do it because nobody's going to vote for Biden and he's a Biden totie or whatever it is, now he can do it and it's meaningless. It's toothless.
Right.
Right. And Brett is meaningless and toothless. And so it doesn't surprise me if he's been a fan for a long time, but only willing to admit it now.
I mean, if that were the case, then he would have clued into things. Then he would understand how the world works far better than he seems to, or maybe he's a great actor.
But that wouldn't be useful for the op, which is, let's get the people who are just waking up this week to be in charge of everything.
That's why I'm saying there's no way he's watched Alex Jones.
No, he's playing the right, but like part of the thing, because this is going to make the other people in the public who were wrong and became right yesterday and now are pretending that they didn't say and do the things they didn't do comfortable, is that all the advanced people are just waking up, right?
Yes.
It's harder for smart people to wake up than it is for dumb people to wake up.
Yeah, smart people who don't understand pattern recognition.
Right. Okay. Well, because, I could make a long argument about health and the immune system, but it's just, we're here for the feather orbs, not for that.
Right.
Okay. Okay. All right. So then the other clip that I have, and this is, let's save this one for the end because it's a little bit off. Well, it doesn't really. Do you have anything related to what we've been talking about here that you want to pop into first? Because the other three things I have are sort of separate, non-related issues.
The only thing I have is Shmuley, but it is related in terms of nothing is as it seems, another Victor Victoria. So that's what
I love that. I love when you bring Victor Victoria forward.
Yeah. Okay. So I've concluded that he is another one. So if you want to go there, we could do that.
All right. Explain your theory. Let's hear it.
Okay, so to do that, I'm going to share an unfortunate clip and I'm going to apologize to our audience for exposing you to such drivel.
Is it the same drivel I thought about exposing you to last night? Let's see.
Probably.
Yikes, that's me. That's not Shmuley.
Is that weird for you? It's so
Very
meta.
Weird.
Right? Okay. So here we go. And this might not even be the best example.
You're going to do to me what I was going to do to you, but I held back.
I'm sorry. But there's a method to the madness because I have a new conclusion about it. When you've hit if you are going to puke and can't take it, just say time. Okay, here we go. Fair use.
Pierce, that you and Norm are saying that I went ad hominem. No, I did not. I quoted his own words of Jewish anti-Semitism, vitriol, which are so extreme that they're shocking. I told you, he called his own parents haters of Germans. Not the Germans hated his parents and annihilated his family. His parents hated the Germans. But now he just now says, I suffer from Jewish dementia. Notice, it's not Shmuley who suffers dementia. It's always Jewish dementia. It's always Jews.
Have you ever heard the phrase Jewish dementia in terms of it being an always? Because the hyperbole epidemic that has hit the entire media airwaves this week, it's like they turned up the hyperbole to me. I've never heard the phrase Jewish dementia, let alone that it's always Jewish dementia. Have you? Or maybe is that my Jewish dementia?
No, this is the first, like, this clip was the first time I've ever heard. And at this point, because he's hardly let Norm Finkelstein speak, I haven't yet heard it from Norm Finkelstein. I've only heard it from Shmuley.
Correct. So that's the point, but let's continue.
Norman Finkelstein has now accused Israel of 5 different genocides. 1982, he accused Israel of genocide in Lebanon. It went on 2006, 2009, 2015. Now, this is the 5th. That means we Jews, I always thought Jews suck at sports and PR. We suck at genocide because we've attempted it 5 times, and yet in all the Arab-Israeli wars, Jews and Arabs together, the numbers that have died, including terrorists, are less than 100,000. Bashar al-Assad next door killed 600,000 in 2 years. We Jews ought to go to him and ask him, how do we finally do this? Because according to Norm, we've tried it for 30 years and we can't do it. In fact, since 1967, when Gaza came under Israeli control, the population of Gaza grew by 1 million people. How is that a genocide? Now, when Norm says that the ICJ said that Israel's committing a genocide, I repeat, Norm, respectfully, you are a fabricator. They said specifically that Israel has an obligation not to. South Africa asked for a cessation of hostilities. They refused. They repeated that refusal last week. How you could get on this program and actually fabricate, well, I guess I know why, because even your mentors, Chicago professor Peter Nozick, calls your scholarship, quote, trash. And this is trash because anyone can Google what we're saying.
Yeah, but Rabbi Shmuley, look, I'm going to jump in again because, again, what you're doing is attacking your other debater here.
He said I suffer from dementia, for God's sake. Why don't you call him out on that? Dementia? Seriously?
With respect, what you're not doing is answering the specific.
Okay, so here's my theory. Rabbi Shmuley is the world's most obnoxious person. What is one of the stereotypes about Jews? We're obnoxious. We speak with our hands. We're loud. He takes it to the nth extreme. He has the physical characteristics of all of the worst of like Third Reich propaganda, of the cartoons of the Jews. He shows up wearing a white suit in February. He's wearing 2 giant watches. He constantly interrupts. I think he's being placed here to foment more hatred for the Jews, to foment more anti-Semitism. I think he is there to make Jews look as bad as possible and to turn more people against Jews. I think that's his whole function.
I thought he was here to sell sex toys.
That was the side hustle.
For everybody that doesn't know, Shmuley owns some kind of weird, like, kosher sex toy
I wonder if his partner would
website.
ask me on that.
No, he's partnered with his daughter. He and his daughter sell.
Great family business. Oh, wait, who else is in the family sex toy business that we know?
Who?
Aubrey Marcus?
Oh, that's right. The pocket, well, not the pocket rocket, the fleshlight. The fleshlight.
Yes.
The fleshlight. Okay. So yeah. So, well, whether that's his like assigned role or not, it's the role he's playing for sure. He's doing that. Whether it's
like, do we not have a better even if we have someone who's pro-Israel, they can't get someone who's calm, who's dignified, who's composed.
Oh, there are some who, like, you know, you can listen to, like, I think her name is Batya Ungar Sargon or something like that. She was on with Glenn Greenwald really early, and she basically, like, has all the same desire, like what she thinks the policies are and should be and what should happen are probably the same as supposedly what his are, but she says it calm, rational. She does express some compassion for, it's like kind of a combination. It's like, you know, she does some of that compassionate stuff or whatever, but she never raises her voice. She doesn't get hysterical. She doesn't tell people who disagree with her that they're bad people, just that she disagrees and that she thinks they're wrong or whatever. She doesn't make this flying. Yes, there, every single person, almost every single person, who is pro-Israel would be a better person to speak on behalf of Israel and Jews than him. So yeah, this is what I'm saying. Clown show, right? They are trying that, like the things that they say that they're supporting and that we should all trust and believe in, they are intentionally making look as stupid as possible.
Correct.
Right. And so this, right. And you know, whatever, it's going to be interesting to see how. Okay, so we noticed first RFK started saying he was pro-Palestine in the few weeks between when he was on with Crystal and Sagar and when he was on his next thing, he shifted from Palestinians are the most pampered people on earth to he's pro-Palestinian, right? And
Which
then
is weird because aren't they uncivilized savages? Wasn't that his whole thing?
That's a separate issue. Right.
Oh, okay.
Then I heard Dean Phillips.
Yes, I'm quoting RFK. That's not my.
Dean Phillips and Bill Ackman now say that as well.
Yeah, that's the new script.
Well, right, but he's funding both of them. He's funded RFK. He's funded, right? So I have not heard, like it's been several weeks at least since we've seen RFK appear with Shmuley. So like I'm wondering if like that, if he's sort of served his purpose and been removed. So we can create the false impression. It's a false impression that RFK has moved from being in alignment with Shmuley to being pro-Palestinian when he's not. He hasn't changed any of his positions. They've just changed the language and they've made the language change seem more significant than it actually is by increasing how crazy Shmuley acts and just changing the language on Dean and Bill and RFK.
Is this a new level of crazy from Shmuley?
Yeah.
Also, the name. Can you think of a dumber name?
No, it's like the worst.
Correct.
Yeah.
Like I think his whole being is set up to repel people from Jews.
Well, I mean, I think like you throw it out there in the beginning. Like I had never heard of Shmuley until this whole thing with RFK came along. And then it's like, okay, can you get people to like bite their tongue or hold their nose because they're afraid of offending someone? How long can you get them to do that? And then when do you turn it up and make it okay for them to reject the thing that they wanted to reject all along?
Right.
Right. But literally, like what we're watching is the creation of the belief that RFK and Bill Ackman and whatever have modified their positions based on how distant their language is from his when the positions they hold are actually still the same.
Yeah, they've changed 0 positions. They've just rebranded them.
That's what I'm saying. But it looks like there's a huge moat between where they are based on the use of language. Go listen to that new Lex Fridman interview with Bill Ackman. And when he starts explaining his pro-Palestinian position.
Oh, it's the same shtick as RFK's. Right. I think I'm just, once again, giving the public too much credit and assuming that they're not going to fall for it, given that no positions have actually changed on any level.
Right, but they're pretending that they have based on appearances.
It's the trans movement.
Well, I mean, sort of, yeah, right. Like I'm a trans pro-Palestinian.
Correct. I identify as pro-Palestinian. That's the new thing.
Pretty much, yeah. Okay, so there was that. Yeah, I watched that last night too. I'm like, should I send it to Dani? I'm like, I'm not going to torture her. So thank you for coming and doing it because I love right. Yeah, it was. But what is interesting is like even Piers was a little turned off. Like I saw him push back on Shmuley, and it's like usually he just spends his whole show trying to get the person who's like anti-Israel to condemn Hamas, right?
I think it's just further demonstration of the theatrics of the whole thing because I can't see why anyone will put this guy on camera. He's so out of control.
He does look like, remember the whole thing with like the Charlie Hebdo and the drawings?
No.
And there was like another one in Dallas where there was like some draw an Arab or draw like a Jew contest and it led to some kind of weird shooting. He literally looks like the drawing.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Like the worst caricature of the Jew being demonized and stereotyped by the worst real deal
right.
anti-Semites is Rabbi Shmuley. With his two giant watches at the same time.
Right. It's like he's in competition with Flava Flav or something. Right.
Yes, definitely.
Okay. All right. Okay. So the next thing I have is it's a little clip from the Jimmy Dore show of well, the clip is about Roger Waters slapping down Bono, right? But really, like, I'm going to show the clip where like Bono just did something like, again, like I'm just exposing the level of clown show that we are at here. Let's go. All right, check this out. Let's make it small. And here we go.
I look how beautiful that stage is. How do we get a stage like that? That is unbelievable. So he's on stage, and Bono is he is the culmination of an establishment tool. So he wears a leather jacket. I'm sure it's vegan. It's leather. And he wears sunglasses everywhere. And he talks about peace and loving each other as he props up the war machine. Because that's what he's doing. You want to see it? Here it is.
So important that Alexei Navalny chose to give his up.
His life. He gave his life up for us.
Can I just say?
Apparently, Putin would never, ever say his name.
So Bono is doing pro-war propaganda right now. That's what that is. Just like Cornel West did when he praised Navalny. Navalny is an actual Nazi, is an actual white supremacist.
He's reformed.
He's an actual.
It's complicated.
And he's a CIA asset.
Well, MI6, same difference, I guess.
Both, no, CIA and MI6. He's Western intelligence asset. And then you get this guy to prop him up. Why? Because they want to do more war against Russia. And so what he's doing now is pro-war propaganda. That's what Bono's doing as he wraps it in peace. We want peace. And how do we do it? By getting you to hate Russia more and Putin more so you'll be for the wars.
I mean,
that's what this is.
I know people don't like Bono, but can I just say fuck the Edge too? I don't think he gets trashed enough. That guy with the beanie on.
Oh, is that who that is?
Yeah, play the blues, Edge.
Okay, here we go.
Watch this.
So I thought tonight, people who believe in freedom, we must.
If you believe in freedom.
The freedom to say no to your goddamn album on my goddamn phone I didn't want? With a guy blowing on another guy's belly on the cover?
Say his name. Not just remember it, but say it.
Tattoo it on your face.
Navalny.
Oh my God.
Alexei Navalny.
Oh my God.
Pol Pot.
Right? Like, I'm like, okay, this is crazy, right? This is like this. We're into a new, like, a new Mirror at the Circus. Like, I don't know. Right.
Wow.
Right.
I didn't think I could dislike Bono anymore, but miracles happen.
Right. I just was like, I couldn't let that one go.
Woo!
All right. So let's do this. We have 10 minutes left. Let's see if any of our friends in the chat room have a question or that they want to ask or a comment they'd like our thoughts or response to that they could put in all capital letters. And if not, I have 2 more tiny bits we could talk about, but I want to make space and time here if anybody wants to throw it out for us to respond to. So I'm going to scroll.
Thank you, Kate, for encouraging people to hit our like button. And Dante Havoc, I unfortunately suffered through the Eric on Chris Williamson. And yeah, that was so painful.
Dani and I will suffer through it together on our next regular show, I'm sure. Jana identifies as the Tooth Fairy.
Nice.
Yeah. All right. Oh, yep. There was an orb. Another one. Yep. Got it. Hit the like. Thank you for that. I never say the hit the like or share kind of thing. Super chats are appreciated, but even better than super chats, if you haven't joined us at wordpodcast.locals.com, where there are endless hours of us doing whatever the fuck it is that we do, doing it over there. Please go over there and join. That makes these live streams possible. All right. Does anyone have something that they're wanting response to? I see no all caps comments or no all caps questions.
Didn't none of the above garner more votes than Nikki in a recent primary?
That is true. No, none of these candidates got more votes, right? Trump wasn't on the ballot, but he still won. And then second place was none of these candidates, and third place was Nikki Haley.
So Kate says, oh, Biden is totally remiss and negligent by not providing protection for JFK Jr. I'm guessing that's RFK Jr. She's got the same Freudian slip
condition we have going on. Yeah.
But given how fake everything is, I don't even buy that.
It's just all part of the dope show, yo. It's, you know, it's all part of the dope show. But yes, like depending on how many layers removed or in we decide to pretend we are, then yes, 100%, right? And then when you back out a little bit, it's like, no, of course not. Maybe he's actually saving RFK by not giving him Secret Service protection, because Secret Service protection doesn't seem to work for the Kennedys.
Exactly. It's so insane. And yes,
and this way he can have Mossad instead.
Right. Legit excuse why he has to have Mossad protecting him.
Correct. I think it's what is it? Gavin DeBecker. I think Max Max. Why can't I think of his name right? Blumenthal. Max Blumenthal had some things to say about the Gavin DeBecker security. I'm not an expert, but I outsourced my thinking on that topic to Max Blumenthal. Anywho, okay. So the two things that I just want to mention here. So first of all, there is this Assange Day X hearing thing sort of going on over in England. And this is another one, like this is one of those ones that for a long time has been like, how am I supposed to think about this? Because how many layers of reality in or out do I think I am at any particular moment I'm thinking about it, or whatever angle I'm looking at it from, right? Like I can go all the way down to like, he grew up in an MK Ultra cult, right? And so like, what role is he playing? To like, well, maybe we've got this all wrong. And like, this literally is a man suffering and dying for free speech and every position in between, right? So all you can really do is go, okay, well, while I lean heavily towards the fact that everything is fake and these people are all actors, on the 1% chance that isn't the case, like theoretically, we need to stand up for free speech. And so it's a problem that people aren't paying attention to this. Right. And there does seem to be a level of ignoring that reality. Like our attention is not being unnaturally drawn to that anymore at all. Like for a while it was right, more intermingled with the Snowden stuff and whatever. But like there's no coverage on like any mainstream or sub-mainstream layer of this about what's going on with the hearing right now and all of that kind of stuff. And so for the most part, and again, I don't feel this way all the time, the longer this has gone on, the more I am concerned that there's a human being that is suffering inside of whatever this is, right? On some level.
Of course. Did Trump ever make a statement as to why he didn't free Assange?
One of the things that I was watching a video on today, and I kept getting interrupted, so I didn't. It was actually a video from last night from Kim Iverson, that some of the things that were revealed in court yesterday seemed to imply that Trump was in on attempting to assassinate Julian Assange, which didn't make sense because
major. Like, was there any proof, evidence?
I was listening to it last night before I went to bed, and then kind of got distracted. I haven't listened from start to finish, but
there's sense, because while he was campaigning, he kept saying the first thing I'm going to do is lock you up. So that doesn't line up.
This was brought up in the video, right? That like, obviously at times he said he loves WikiLeaks, he loves Julian Assange, but then he did seem to sign off on whatever Mike Pompeo's plan was, as far as, maybe it's that Mike Pompeo talked him into it. I don't know. Like I need to do more. I have to dig a little deeper and see exactly what was said in court versus what people are saying about what they think about that. Right. Sometimes it's hard to tell because there is no feed right into the courtroom. So we're only listening to what people come out and say. And a lot of their opinion is probably mixed in with that. But that is going on right now. And it is, if they are able to extradite him here and try him for espionage for journalism, it's going to be a very, very, very sad day. That's the whole point, is that they want to bring him here, right? And basically they've charged him. What do you? Oh, thank you. Well, Laura's just pointing out that someone gave us a super chat. Thank you, Dante Havoc. Thank you.
Thank you, Dante.
Laura just walked in the door and came right over and showed me. Anywho, okay, so I think that's the whole thing, is like they're trying to fight him being extradited here to be tried for like espionage.
But our justice system is 1000% corrupt. There's no way that would go well here.
Correct, and that's why there seems to be like a level of panic or hysteria around why they have to make sure he doesn't get extradited, because there's no way he would survive that. I just wanted to say that this is going on right now and it's not getting very much attention. So like on the off chance that there's any layer of this reality that is real and that this is part of it, like, you know, a percentage of our attention could be paid to that. So I just wanted to say, people help me try to understand what I think I'm reading or hearing about that, because it's hard to tell, right? Mm-hmm. And then the other thing was, I spent a lot of time over the course of the last week listening to Matt Taibbi try to parse out in excruciating detail the new leaks or the new evidence about on the Russiagate story that he has been writing with Michael Schellenberger and Alex Gutentag. Like Gutentag Schatzi, like what the fuck are we talking about, right? Like, okay, you know, so the whole thing to me, so first of all, like what he's saying, like I believe it's correct. Most of it is stuff we've all known for a long time. And I guess the reason he's coming to it now and laying it out in the, you know, because he has this article he's written with Schellenberger, but then he's been doing a lot of media appearances and his own videos explaining in excruciating detail some things that I'm like, we already know this though. Right. I guess in his head, even though he has known a lot of this for a long time, he did not have the level of evidence that he kind of requires to really get behind something, which is enough sources like willing to speak on the record about something and provide confirmatory evidence for him to feel good about like doing a full layout of it, right? And then through whatever leaks came through the Schellenberger Gutentag thing, suddenly he had what he needed to feel comfortable laying out the things that he's already known with the confirmatory piece around this, right? So like, I think he's doing what he does as a journalist, like he's doing what he always does. But what it feels like to me somehow is that he is now never going to be able to separate himself from Michael Schellenberger because of the fact, right?
It makes me feel like part of the setup is to take credibility away from Matt Taibbi by binding him to Schellenberger in the public mind. And I always wonder what's happening behind the scenes, that Taibbi is being pushed to work with Schellenberger, who seems totally unqualified to be doing investigative journalism with Matt Taibbi.
Well, correct. So I think there's a couple of ways to view this. For you and I, it would be delegitimizing Matt Taibbi. For other people, it adds legitimacy to Matt Taibbi, because Michael Schellenberger talks about all kinds of things that Matt Taibbi doesn't talk about. Michael Schellenberger talks about UFOs, pipe bombs on January 6th, all this kind of, all these catchphrases that get people all excited, right? But yes, Schellenberger is this like, you know, shape-shifting karma chameleon, you know, the climate activist, nuclear, running for governor, cryptocurrency is an art project. Now I'm a journalist. Now I'm going to be the freedom of speech censorship czar at University of Austin, which not University of Texas, University of Austin, the new PayPal mafia funded university that's here to brainwash people into thinking that 1 inch widening of the margins is free speech, kind of thing here, backed by Barry Weiss, Peter Boghossian, Michael Schellenberger, all of these people who've been involved in IDW adjacent bullshit. But this is what it feels like to me. Is that, and if you watch, because the other thing that happened this week was Matt Taibbi finally opened up about what happened with him and Elon Musk.
Right, which was interesting timing, I thought.
Right. So this is what I see, is like, this was an intentionally pulled Matt Taibbi into this Twitter files thing, right? Because this is the thing that moved him, because he used to be like a very sort of mainstream left progressive journalist that had good chops and bona fides that people from other sides could appreciate. And then when he didn't give in to the left-wing pressure, then they turned him into a far right-wing extremist conservative journalist or whatever, right? And this is sort of for some people who weren't paying attention to him when he did the vampire squid with the financial system in 2008, which is really where he rose to prominence. The Twitter files is the biggest and most important thing he's ever done, right? So they pulled him into the Twitter files.
Wait, are we talking about Taibbi or Schellenberger?
Taibbi pulled him into the Twitter files, paired him like in this weird way with Schellenberger. And you know what no one has talked about yet, but it occurred to me this week, because the way that history is synthesized and smoothed over, one day the Twitter files are going to be referred to as the X files, and there's going to be confusion about whether it's about government corruption or fucking UFOs, which Michael Schellenberger also talks about. Okay.
Whoa.
In 20 years, no one will say Twitter files. They will say X files. And people will, okay. This is what my brain was doing while I was exercising the other day. I'm like, oh my God. Because right now we're still in this like Twitter formerly known as X, Twitter formerly known as X. And you already have people saying, when are we going to stop saying Twitter, X formerly known as Twitter or whatever?
Right.
X formerly known as Twitter, not Twitter formerly known as X. So eventually it's just going to be the X files, right? And then some people are going to think that if you go and say, no, that the Twitter files or the X files were about government corruption and the Hunter Biden laptop and the COVID misinformation and they're going to say, no, the X files is about the government hiding the truth about UFOs.
It's going to be like another like Berenstein Bears argument.
Right? Like it's going to be this huge, it's going to be like how BLM became Black Lives Matter instead of the people that steal land from the Bundys or whatever the fuck it is, right? They love this shit. Yeah. So he's now, so now the story that he will be, that most of his current audience knows him from, most of the people who pay him on Substack got to know him on Twitter files or X files, right? And if they can continually keep him bogged down reporting minutia leaks that are information that everybody already knows, but now he has something to verify, they're going to keep him writing stories that are 5, 10, 15, and 20 years old. So he's not able to pay attention to what's happening right now. Because
which
they
we
know
talk about is like the number one strategy of the handlers is
correct.
To distract and take you off of your dharma.
Correct, right? And so, and because he goes through everything so meticulously,
right,
he's sitting here rehashing Russiagate while Michael Schellenberger is out there getting all the likes for talking about the pipe bomb on January 6th that whatever it is, right? And so it's this weird way of keeping him bound up because they know he is always going to do his due diligence as a journalist, and he's not going to talk about something that he doesn't know enough about, can't prove, blah, 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 right? So they'll continually feed him little bits of things so he can go back and report stories that really everyone already knows, right? Type of thing. And like one of the things that he has spoken very little about, and it would be great to have him speaking more about this to the audience that found him from Twitter files, is current political shenanigans and what's going on in Israel, Gaza.
Correct. So this whole thing is a way to take down Taibbi and to keep him from
stuck in the mud. Just keep him stuck in the mud.
100%. And you and I have been suspicious of that from the get-go. Like, why would they put him with Barry Weiss, with Schellenberger? It makes no sense. It's to handle him and corral him into nonsense so he can't do what he would.
All of the same people that we're suspicious of for the same reason that we will lay out more explicitly if you go to wordspodcast.locals.com and watch our regular shows, because it's not really a nice thing to have to say, some of it, right? But it's true. The same people who are funding all of that shit, which is you're allowed to criticize all groups of people but one, basically. That they're the one, they're the same people who are doing that.
Yep.
And he is, I don't think he's in on it. I don't think he's a shill. I do think he's naive, and I do think he will do his due diligence, even if it makes him look slow and like he is, like what was taking so long? Why are you telling us stuff we already know? Right? Like he's confirming this is reality. Right. And I also, I'm less concerned about them feeding him false stories because I think he's very good at checking things out. But when
the time it takes to do it.
The time it takes, they literally have him now stuck in 2017.
It's kind of brilliant. I mean, the psychopaths creating this are so freaking smart. And while I really detest them, I do respect their intelligence and their strategizing.
You got to respect the person on the other side of the net from you, right? So,
yeah.
All right, let's return to the chat room one more time. Let's see, does anybody else have, I see almost nothing in here that is, yes, Project Cheney, PayPal for sure, right? The PayPal mafia is, which is, I forgot that was a term for the people that we're getting increasingly more suspicious of than anyone else. I forgot that they actually had a name. There's like a weird like investor angel type name for them, but also the PayPal mafia. But yes, Cheney pointed out that PayPal is PayPal, like the Pope, like PAPAL, right? Which is kind of interesting. But yeah, like that's
that is interesting.
They also have a lot to do with what's going on with this COPA trial with all the Jack Dorsey and Square and against Craig Wright, who the real Satoshi Nakamoto is, and all this shit that is like seems to be about one thing, but really is probably about legitimizing, bringing in central bank digital currency and all that crap, right? So they're involved in that nonsense too. One-on-one, Zero Laugh. Lots of friends in the house tonight. James.
Michael Charlie asked, why do Lex Fridman and Dark Journalist dress the same? I think we did a show on that.
We did do a show on that, right?
And after we did a show on that, Dark Journalist changed his outfit.
For one show, and then he went back and then he went back to his uniform, right? Yeah. Sorry, like we don't take great show notes. We don't ever remember what show we talked about what in and how close to them at this point. So yeah, but yes, this has not escaped our awareness. All right. Anything else? Guys, thank you for spending lately every Wednesday evening with us. We love you. We appreciate you. As soon as we close this, I'll go and put links and promo code for our locals page in the description. So if you guys have not availed yourself of that yet, you can enjoy the free month, and we will see you guys next Wednesday.